next item is item 3A, resolution approving terminal building lease agreement between American Airlines, Inc. and Miami-Dade County for the construction, expansion, and lease of VIP club space at Miami International Airport North Terminal, gates D-15 and D-30, for a term of 10 years and an annual rental amount of $8,002,330.98 in the initial year and adjusted each year thereafter in accordance with resolution number R-1054-90. Commencing upon the completion of construction and expansion, authorizing the county mayor's designee to execute same and exercise all rights conferred therein, including termination and to perform all acts necessary to effectuate same, and directing the county mayor's designee to provide the county property appraiser a copy of said lease.
Thank you. And Mr. Sola, another good job. A very positive fiscal impact to MIA. So do we hear a motion on this item?
Second.
It was moved by Commissioner Moss, seconded by Commissioner Bovo. Discussions, questions? Anyone wishes to be recorded? No. Without objection, that item passes. If we can. The item is item 3F, and it's the item where we are going to be talking about the terminal for MSC, our cruise line and another cruise and this company that have selected Miami-Dade as your home. And we welcome you with open arms. Go ahead, Mr. Gurila.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Commissioner Juan Corvilla, Director of Port Miami, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and really have the honor of introducing Mr. Roberto Fusaro, the President of MSC North America. As the board is aware, MSC began its presence here at Port Miami in 2012 after many, many years of, I think, of your dedicated port team, which I'll be remiss, Madam Chair, if I don't recognize their, raise your hand, Heidi and Basil and company, all right, trying their very best to bring MSC to Port Miami. MSC is not only the largest privately owned cruise company in the world, fourth overall, but it's the second largest cargo container company in the world, which also does a significant amount of volume with us at the Port of Miami. What we have before you today is, for your consideration, is a term sheet that would, in essence, construct the largest cruise terminal at the port, capable of berthing two of the largest vessels in the world, vessels with a capacity of 7,000 passengers each, and it provides for the framework for such a deal, and is a total of a 50-year deal with revenues to the port, guaranteed revenues to the port of $1.6 billion over the 50-year term, assuming that from year 30 to year 50, we keep the 3% compounded escalator. After year 30, we get to revisit that escalator based on the previous 5 years, i.e. years 26 to 30. But the numbers are here, and they're in the memo. Even if that is reduced to a 2% escalator from year 30 and beyond, it is still over a $1.5 billion deal for this port. So in a nutshell, that is a summary of this deal. We need to come back to the board for the board's consideration of the final construction documents. And so with that, and if it's your will, I am happy to introduce the President of MSC North America, Roberto Fusaro.
Go ahead, Mr. Fusaro. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Sosa. Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you, Juan, Port Director. We are honored to be here. I mean, this is, Juan described the agreement very well. We are very proud of this agreement. A few years ago, we came here to say that we have found a home in the United States, and that home was Miami. And this is a demonstration of that commitment. The number that Juan mentioned kind of casually are very significant. A 1.6 guaranteed revenue for the port is the commitment that MSC is ready to make. And we are one of the youngest cruise lines in the world, but we are growing a lot. We have many ships under construction, and our plan is to bring many of these ships to Miami. That's why we need a terminal, and that's why we submit this term sheet for your consideration and eventually approval. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Fusaro. And for my colleagues, let me tell you that This is a plus for Miami, for the port, the investment they are making in this port, in this terminal that is going to be amazing. And we are looking forward to see the beautiful design, but at the same time, the amount of jobs that it develops, that we hope that we continue working with all the trades that we can, so we can train and customize that training to fit the needs of the cruise lines. So you can have a lot of people also from Miami-Dade County. I want to thank the attorney for your hard work and everyone who took part on this. And also, I have to welcome you with open arms and to tell you that you made the right decision. You have a family cruise line that not everyone has in this world, but at the same time, you selected the best port, the best view. There's nothing like living and coming to Miami. So this is the cruise capital of the world, and with your investment, with your name, it's going to be even bigger. Thank you, Mr. Curila, for a hard work of you, your staff, everyone who took part. And with that, thank you. There was a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I need to read the title into the record before we take action.
Thank you.
This is item 3F, resolution approving non-binding term sheet with MSC Cruises SA, summarizing principal terms of future cruise terminal development and use agreement regarding MSC's proposed development and operation at Port Miami of two new mega cruise terminals and associated infrastructure, directing county mayor or county mayor's designee to negotiate contracts with MSC to carry out the proposed project and bring said contracts back to this board for consideration and approval by October 29, 2019. Authorizing county mayor or county mayor's designee to negotiate and execute a pre-development services agreement with MSC to allow for potential accelerated peer work, approving a waiver of resolution number R-130-06, and authorizing county mayor and county mayor's designee to exercise any cancellation, termination, renewal, and other rights contained in such pre-development agreement.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. We'll move on second. Discuss second. Anyone wishes to be recorded? No. Proudly, we are going to forward this to the commission. And welcome to your home. And I hope everything will be expedited for the use of the terminal in the position that it is, so we can have that ribbon cutting ceremony as soon as possible, and visitors and our residents of Miami-Dade County to be able to take advantage of the beauty of what you're going to build. Congratulations, and thank you to both.
Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair,
Thank you, Madam.
members.
And one of the things that Madam Chair, you talk about all the time, and that is trying to get our folks here trained and prepared. There may be a real opportunity in the cruise industry and the airline industry
Cargo.
to potentially, do something special with our school system to basically get individuals in our community up to speed and in a position where they can take advantage of the job opportunities that will come along with all of the development that's happening at the port.
Director, would you like to lead us in the presentation?
Sure. Madam Chairwoman, good morning, and Commissioners, good morning. What we have before you is basically an ordinance that reconciles the county's code with the FAA regulations as well as Florida statutes. It's an update to the code for Miami-Dade County. There is nothing new. There's nothing that's being added that is not in full compliance with Florida statutes or the FAA. So we also have a presentation available for you. If it is the pleasure of the board, the committee, we can certainly make that presentation for you. And from my staff, Mr. Jose Ramos, Division Director over Planning and Land Use, is capable of making this presentation if you give us 5 minutes of your time.
It's up to the members of the board.
It basically updates the airport names. It's the definition sections are updated. It's the land use regulations in accordance with recent changes to Florida statutes and the FAA. We have height and airspace regulations that are being brought into sync with the FAA requirements, administrative interim guidance determinations, and airport height and land use maps that, again, that are all in full compliance with the Florida statutes and the FAA.
So in reality, this is a comprehensive airport zoning code in accordance with FAA that will ensure that land uses on or in proximity to the county's airports are compatible with airport operations, protect its economic benefits and capacity,
Yes, ma'am. And in addition, it's also in compliance at the request of previous actions by the board. Rather than doing it in piecemeal, last year, the board took some action on updating some of the code. What we're bringing before you is basically the full compliance of Florida statutes and FAA. Rather than doing it piecemeal as issues come up, working with the county attorney's office, we were able to reconcile those three items. And what we have before you is that work product.
And with RER, that was part of all the hard work to make sure that things were in compliance with the federal government and defined. And this item is going to help us in the future if the city decides at the end to do the construction of hotels, the stadiums, all that, then it's going to help to ensure that when there's a proximity to a county's airport, that operations are compatible and that transportation and traffic are going to be looked into as part of that. Go ahead, Commissioner, and then I will recognize you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And
Let me see if I hear a motion on the item before.
I'll move the item.
For discussion. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I just want to note, too, that there is the amendment on the sheet that I handed out to one of the figures. It's figure 3 on handwritten page 49. This is a non-substantive change. As I understand it, it has removed some lines that were showing contours that the department felt were confusing, perhaps to the public. So it's a non-substantive change.
To make it easier.
I think we're going to be meeting at some point to discuss. I am curious to see what does our airport look like 50 years from now, taking into account technology, different modes of transportation. I don't know what the jet plane may look like 30 years from now, but it's something that I think is important. Does this contemplate at all anything to do with traffic and traffic patterns around the airport?
Now, with regards to ground transportation, Commissioner, specifically, it's basically land use and what can be built and what cannot be built, for the most part, around the airports. Restrictions to schools, if you will, to making sure that those kind of facilities are not built within close proximity to the airport. Also, it establishes height restrictions. So we want to make sure that buildings aren't put in place where it would have a problem for, obviously, our air traffic travel. Now, with regards to your point, I would be remiss if I don't answer the question. At the direction of the chairwoman, there's been a lot of conversations in the past as to where is this airport going to go. And to that question, we are preparing a presentation to this committee and ultimately to the board so that the board has a full understanding of the capital program, the master plan for this airport, something that this committee or the board haven't done in several years. So we want to make sure that before we bring to you any construction projects, any capital outlay program with regards to expansion of the airport, something that we're constantly doing, that this committee and the Board of County Commissioners has reviewed, has commented, and has provided feedback so that we're all working off of a plan that has been approved by the board.
If you yield, Commissioner, for a second. Now with your question and with your answers, I think that the members of this committee, we should have a roundtable, how do you call it, meeting?
Seminar.
Like a
Sort of a
workshop?
workshop.
So we can interchange ideas and hear from them before anything comes in front of us. That's going to make everybody's job easier, and that is the moment that I think everything will make sense. The question is, if we give everything to the private industry to develop something that is not related to the airport, does that mean that in the future when we don't sit in this table, the county will have to pay for another airport somewhere else because there's no space to grow? Or does it mean that that is going to, those are the many questions that we have, and the incorporation of traffic surrounding port and airport, because are the two engines that move this county. I think that I'm going to call, if you can, I'm going to check all your schedules, but I think we should have a kind of workshop with no decisions, but that we can sit down with you and look at everything you're preparing and get the feedback from each member of this table. We have Opaloca in Commissioner Jordan's district. We have different airports, so it's not only MIA what we're talking about, it's about everything. look at the changes that have been made in
I live
Opa-locka.
close to Opelika Airport. I see the economic development on Opelika Airport, 57th, obviously, the Amazon complex, other warehouse-type facilities that are being built or hangars at Opelika, and Tamiami basically mirrors the same. So I think, obviously, long-term planning for that. There is a lot of development going around, especially over in the Tamiami. Right across the street, we've seen an entire development go up as far as retail and whatnot. And I think all these things need to play. But now going to MIA, clearly, and I hope the intent of this committee will be at some point is to look at everything airport. Obviously, I think we've heard a lot of talk about Central and South Terminal, and I think it's time. I think it's time that we make a decision, move forward on what we'd like to see that airport, as far as concessions are concerned, the amenities that go on in the airport. I think we should definitely address it and not leave it, kind of leave it sitting around. I think we should aggressively address it. Now, on the zoning, back to the zoning on this, the reason I talk about the traffic is that, we've heard a lot of talk. We're not involved in this conversation, but yet we are, with regards to the possible soccer stadium. And so how does this impact any kind of future development there if that goes forward? And then more importantly, assume a soccer match going on and there's some sort of emergency situation at our airport. Would we be able to deal with that kind of contingency? Heaven forbid that we have an emergency at our airport.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner, to your question specific to the possibility of having that particular golf course being developed, we've had, at least myself, one meeting with the group that is interested in building that stadium. We had a full conversation with regards to the height restrictions that are available to the public. And so there's no secret at what the restrictions are, and it depends on where within the footprint of that particular golf course where you can build up to 160 feet, but there's other restrictions depending on how close you get to the airport. What you have before you is there is a minor tweak to the changes of the actual golf course, if you will, but it's no different. It's basically bringing it into compliance with the FAA height restrictions are. So what the county had was a little bit off in a sliver of the land, but it would have been in full compliance and full disclosure to anyone that wanted to develop anything, be it there or any place else outside of that particular golf course. So we expect fully that any development that takes place, whether it be there in that particular golf course or anywhere around the airport, that they would be in full compliance with the height restrictions to ensure the safety of the flying public as well as those individuals that are either living or are participating in any activities around the airport.
Thank you. And lastly, Madam Chair, I know that there.
I want to align, myself with Commissioner Bovo and the chair in reference to, because I know that when you went over to the airport, one of the things that you wanted to do was to kind of step back for a minute and take a look at where the airport was and then reevaluate that and come with some vision, that you may have. And I just want to encourage us to make sure that we have that vision discussed here,
Yes.
Right away as quickly as possible, because we don't have a lot of time, this current commission, and I want to make sure that when we leave the airport with a vision on off into the future where we've had, significant input into it. For example, the idea of a new hotel at the airport is an issue that I think that we need to make some decisions on. Again, coming into the airport, it would be a beautiful view, as far as, folks are coming in. We need to decide what we're going to do with Central Terminal and all these other kinds of things. And again, we need to move on those as quickly as possible. So I've got full confidence, in the director, that he's going to come back with a vision that we can have a discussion about. and that together we can shape the future of the airport going forward.
Commissioner, 100% correct. I will tell you, and again, to specific to your question, Commissioner Bovo and Jordan Soto, at the direction of the chairwoman, what has been done historically at the airport is that we have been pushing specific projects forward to this commission without the commission having the full approval of not just the master plan, but where are we going within the next 10 to 15 and even 20 years. And rather than focusing in 5-year increments, what I wanted to bring for you is a full presentation of what is this airport need to look like and how we're going to meet those needs within now and 15 and 20 years. So before we continue to put projects forward, the hotel, which we're in dire need of building a new hotel, Central Terminal, we want the full board to understand, and more importantly, approve the path forward so the administration has clear direction of what to build and how to build it and how to meet those needs.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I will